Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of Talk Exchange. Today we have with us Wendy Spoerl from Adopt America here in our hometown of Toledo. And Wendy's mission within Adopt America is so important. And I know myself, I learned a lot from today's episode and just the wonderful things that they're doing within the organization. At the end of the day, they really just want to help their families to return home. They want to do their part to interrupt the generational cycles of violence. Certain things that I don't think a lot of us see on a daily basis. And Wendy's insight is just very, very interesting. And this is one of those episodes where I think you're going to learn something about the importance of adoption and what role that can play in our society. So we hope you enjoy this week's episode of Talk Exchange, and we will see you again next week.
Welcome to today's episode of Talk Exchange. I'm Tracy Edwards, CEO of the National Exchange Club.
I'm Christy Lindahl, Director of Communications.
Great. It's kind of fun to have our guest in studio today, Christy. Generally, we are interviewing people from all over the country, and they're joining us via video. But today, we have one of the National Exchange Club's partners, Wendy Spoerl, president of Adopt America, is with us. And the funny thing about seeing you here, Wendy, is our offices are across the street from each other. So we could have done it there, but we're doing it in Brad's studio here. So welcome, Wendy.
Thanks. I'm really glad to be here. This is going to be fun.
Definitely. And we appreciate getting to know you via your partnership with the National Exchange Club and as the president of Adopt America. In fact, what brought you to be involved with Adopt America? Take us back to where it started for you.
Wow, that's 23 years ago now.
So time flies.
Long time ago, yeah. But I'd been working for a long time already at that point in children's charities and doing nonprofit work because that's what's close to my heart, being involved in charitable organizations, things that can help the community, help kids and families. So it's really important to me to be engaged that way. So I had been a school teacher and a librarian and done a lot of things with kids over the years and really wanted to do something different. And so explored various options and got involved with actually Family and Child Abuse Prevention Center was one of the places that I was employed for a while and then learned about this great organization, Adopt America Network. And a friend of mine was on their board and was sharing information about it. So I learned about it, and it turned out that she then was asked to go off the board and be an interim director for a period of time. And she asked me to come and join the team there then. So that's what I did. That was in 2000.
Wow.
So, I know. It's been a really great run,
So Adopt America has a different focus than some other adoption type agencies. Could you explain that a little bit?
You bet.
Our members?
You bet. Adopt America only works with kids that are in foster care. So, lots of adoption agencies are working with kids that are either newborn, so infant adoption, or international adoption. We only work with those kids that are in foster care that are unable to return to their birth families. So that is our specialization. And the kids in care, of course, the first and main goal is to help their families to be able to have them come back home. That's the goal for all kids in foster care. But sometimes that can't happen. It can't. Families have difficulty rehabilitating, whatever their circumstance may be, and it's not safe for the kids to return. And so the county takes permanent custody of the kids. And at that point, then it's the county's responsibility to find the next permanent place for those kids. While they're in foster care, still, they're moving towards permanency always. And we all know that counties are overwhelmed with the work that they're doing, just getting kids to safety.
Right.
And so their ability to spend time working on finding that next permanent family is limited. And so Adopt America started in order to help get those kids to permanency more quickly and in a safe way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we do, and why we do it, because we all believe that kids belong in families and kids need to grow up in families. Um, we are not isolated individuals, and so in order to grow and to thrive, we need those families. And so that's our mission, that's our goal. And then, of course, once those kids are in families, the supports that are needed,
Right.
because they've experienced trauma.
Sure.
Well, I've learned a little bit about your mission, just getting to know you, getting to know Dan Silvers, the president of your board, and hearing some of his stories about his foster and adoption experiences. And that's an amazing thing. And then, of course, seeing some of the impact at your gala that you have.
Right.
And we appreciate that you got involved in the Exchange Club of Toledo. You joined that club, and I know that we've been able to do some things together. What did you like? Because obviously you have a full life, you have a full career, you have a lot going on. What attracted you to Exchange, and what do you like about being a member and also having the support of Exchange in partnership with Adopt America?
Well, as an individual, I appreciate the opportunity to be involved in the Exchange Club of Toledo. That's a great group of people. They're kind, they're generous, they really want to make a difference. They want very hands-on experiences in the community. They're very open to trying lots of things, and being responsive to somebody who brings a need to the group. It's just a really great group of people. And so, for me personally, it's a good experience to get to be around more cool people, right?
Definitely, yes. And we feel the same. Yeah.
They're fun too, having social outings and, an excuse to get together. It's, and the other thing that's really been helpful for me is that there isn't a real heavy burden placed on members because, as you said, I am busy running an agency, the national organization.
Yes.
You know that, Tracy. You know what that's like. So I am busy with my work life. And I have a great family. I've got 3 young adult kids that they like us and want to come see
you
us.
came out on the other side.
I love that, yes.
So we have, great times with them. So it's super fun to spend time with them. And they all 3 have partners now. And so now we're 8 and it's so cool. It's just fun. So, so I'm, I do have a very full plate. And so the club is just like so welcoming. And it's like, yeah, what you've got to give, you've got to give. That's, no pressure. They're very just understanding of what people's capacity to participate is. And so that allows me to not feel guilty about being a member somewhere. I mean, that's really hard because a lot of places that's not the case. That if you sign up for something, then you're like constantly, oh, I got to do this. I got to do, and that's not the reason to do it.
No, and they're always happy to see you walk in. So to your point, though, I love that about Exchange Clubs because it's understanding that everybody gives to their own personal capacity, which is always different. So I appreciate your involvement.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You both heard our keynote speaker at the convention, right? What did he say? If all you have to give is 40% and you give that 40%, it's your 100%.
Yeah,
it's true.
And it's a great philosophy to carry through life.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. And really, I mean, it just allows you to appreciate the moment and to be open to what everybody else has got going on as well. Yeah, it's a really good model for others to see that, I think, because we are all we're swamped. Everybody knows that.
Yes.
Trying to slow down and have some fun,
and then you feel guilty for slowing down and having fun.
right.
Yes.
Yeah. So sometimes, but
then
the second half of your question was really
absolutely
about, how Adopt America as an organization and the National Exchange Club kind of fit together, in a
Mm-hmm.
partnership.
Well, you
Because
saw some opportunity with our parent aid model, right? And
right.
what did you think about that?
Well, for a long time, Adopt America has been providing services to the families
Mm-hmm.
that are adopting through our program. In the most recent past, the last 4 or 5 years, we developed a program that's called OAKS. It's
Hmm.
Ongoing Adoption and Kinship Support.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a program that we've been offering to not just the families that are adopting through Adopt America, but those that are adopting across our community, as
Okay.
well as families who are parenting relatives.
Mm.
It's called kinship placement. So there are lots more families in our community that can benefit from this
Mm-hmm.
kind of programming. And so, as we were developing this program, we were looking for evidence based models to be able to incorporate into the programming, and wanting it to be a home based provision of services so we can actually meet with families where they are, where they
Good.
live, and provide some of those supports for them in
Mm-hmm.
their home. Um, and I, of course, have known about Exchange Cloud for a long
Sure.
time, and knew about the Parent Aid
Mm-hmm.
model, but hadn't really had the opportunity to explore it in more depth
Mm-hmm.
or to think about it in terms of how we could incorporate that into Adopt America. So again, as I was looking at evidence-based models that I could help, to put or to create our OAKS program, it seemed to me that it made sense
Mm-hmm.
to look at a structure like the visitation
Mm-hmm.
model of exchange parent aid. And so that's essentially how I first, made
Mm-hmm.
that connection. And then learned that there was the flexibility within the model to allow us to use curriculum that made sense with the
Mm-hmm.
families we're serving,
Mm-hmm.
um, because the families we serve are somewhat different than the families that have traditionally been served by the exchange parent aid
Sure.
model, and there the prevention portion of our program is to prevent kids from re-entering the system.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Nice.
We don't want kids going back into foster care
Mm-hmm.
or having to leave their grandparent and go to another home.
Mm-hmm.
So we want stability for that placement. And so there is safety that's needed, there's supports that are needed, there
Mm-hmm.
are new parenting techniques that are needed.
Mm.
And all of the kids that we work with, remember, were in foster care, or most of them anyway, right now. And so they didn't go to foster care because everything was great in their
Right.
home,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Something bad happened in that home that made a separation necessary. And all of that trauma affects
Mm-hmm.
the children for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And kids that have lived with those experiences don't respond to parenting techniques that are maybe typically used with other families or kids that have
Mm-hmm.
not experienced trauma. So it's important that we were able to incorporate that,
Sure.
for example, trust based relational
Mm-hmm.
intervention, TBRI, is a very, very important part of our work because we can teach parents various techniques that work better with the kids,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of typical disciplinary kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Timeout for our kids is like the opposite of what you need to do because our kids need time in. They
Oh,
Right.
need to
yeah.
be
They've
embraced.
already
Mm-hmm.
been isolated.
They,
True.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so things are very different, and folks don't know that. Families
Mm-hmm.
just don't necessarily know that. So TBRI is an evidence-based model of curriculum that we then incorporate with the exchange parent
Oh,
aid
nice.
model, that
Excellent.
gives us
Mm-hmm.
that structure to the home visitation program. So that's kind of how
Mm-hmm.
we are making it roll.
Great.
So, like you said, the program is typically used in other centers with a different type of model where
Mm-hmm.
they're working directly with the families, and the people in those families have been through the trauma together. Do you find that when you're teaching some of these skills to the kids in foster care that you are helping to nip that cycle in the bud? That maybe they're learning skills their parents didn't know.
Absolutely. And that's the goal. The goal here is to interrupt the generational cycles of
Right.
violence
Yes.
in our kids' lives.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, every time I hear about one of our families having grandkids, it's just like, yes,
Yes.
yes, because
Success.
yes, the
Mhm.
parent has raised this child up and out of foster care. That child is now an adult and raising babies
Mhm.
Yes.
in the arms of grandparents. I
Mm.
mean, that is it,
That makes everything you do
that is
worthwhile.
it. It's
Yeah.
what it's all about, and it speaks to us. We have such a difficult time demonstrating numbers of outcomes
Right.
because that one kid, that one child, look at the difference
Yeah.
that makes,
Mhm.
generationally. And so, yes, numbers are important, but those demonstrations of
Mhm.
real families is
Mhm.
what tells the
Sure.
story.
And those people have a
Absolutely.
butterfly effect throughout the community, right? They're going out and they're teaching their peers, they're
Yeah,
talking to their children's friends, explaining all of this and
right.
being a good example. So, yeah,
Hmm.
it's just more than the one family and the one child.
Right, right. And I used to describe it as these families are walking billboards because,
Oh,
they
sure.
have kids with various challenges, various needs that could be
Mhm.
medical issues. They are multicultural families.
Mhm.
They are
Mhm.
transracial families. There's just, you know, they are billboards
Yeah.
for caring for other children who are in the system and need permanency.
Nice. And what do you see as next steps then? So it's great to have these success stories, and obviously your goal is to serve more families and see that same
Right.
outcome where you can really impact a life.
Yeah.
So what do you see as what do you want to do next?
Well, Adopt America is national, and
Mhm.
so we work with families and kids all across the country.
Mhm.
A lot of our programs are focused here in Northwest Ohio because
Okay.
this is where our headquarters is. And
Sure.
so we have been able to receive a lot of additional funding
Mhm.
here that we can do more and support more kids and families. What I would really like to be able to do is to replicate some of this programming, further across our state and across the
Mhm.
country because, when you find a good thing, it's like, don't put a blanket over it,
Right.
right? It's like,
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
shine,
Yes.
let her shine. So, that's one of the
Mhm.
things that, um, you know, when I first came in, Brad asked me, wow, 23 years, that's a long
Mhm.
time. People don't do this for a long time. But this is what it has taken to build
Yes.
Right.
to this kind of programming and to get us to a place where we really have the ability to not only be doing
Mhm.
all this good work here, but to have that be replicated and to go beyond that.
Mhm.
And so that's a big deal for me. That's a big
Absolutely.
deal. It's
Sure.
it's
It's a
been
lot to be
important
proud
work.
of
It's been important
where you
work.
It
are.
is.
Absolutely.
And I know you've met Kathy Mize, one of our past national
Yeah.
presidents, and I know you two have talked about your different programs. Kathy runs a facility that helps children who have aged out of foster
Yes.
care
Mhm.
and helps take care of the children that those children have.
Yes.
Yes. So, how do you see that incorporating into something bigger, along the lines of the kids who didn't get your
Yeah.
services beforehand?
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting that you asked because we do have a program now for kids who are aging out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And we're working to provide some special supports for them.
Good.
Um, and that seems to be an expanding area that will probably be
Mhm.
growing some more work in. And of course, those young people who are having babies,
Mhm.
Right.
we want very much for them to have the kind of guidance that the exchange parent
Mhm.
aid model
Right.
offers,
Yes.
and that um, they can move from the dependence of foster care,
Mhm.
because foster care makes these kids dependent,
Yeah.
right? They're dependent. And then if they age out, we don't want to again create another dependency,
Right.
but we want them held up
Mhm.
as they're, turning 23, 24. Good heavens,
Sure. Absolutely.
and a couple of kids maybe at this point,
Right.
Mhm.
because they haven't had the kind of nurturing and support system that
Mhm.
that maybe our kids have had,
Mhm.
that didn't experience that. So, um, yeah, I really think it's important for us to embrace those young people
Yeah.
because their outcomes are lousy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They age out and their outcomes are really, really lousy.
Mhm.
Like 3% go to college. I mean,
It's well, and we all know, after a typical work day, whatever it is you deal with after work, right? I have my kids, my husband. Sometimes at the end of the day, it's hard to say I was successful at everything I did today.
Yeah.
You always
True.
question yourself
Mhm.
and second guess yourself. So if you've never had somebody raise you up and teach you those right things, you're probably more insecure
Yeah.
about your judgments and your
Yeah.
actions.
Yeah. And if you don't have um, the ability, these kids don't have driver's licenses.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Find a job in Toledo that you don't need to drive to.
Oh, right,
Exactly.
right.
I mean, it's not just
Yeah.
Toledo. There are lots of communities that don't have good public
Mhm.
transportation, and so for kids coming out of care, that's just one major issue
Right.
that they face is that with the driver's licenses and experience at having a paper route,
Right.
so those
Mhm.
skills that
Right.
that kids can learn over the course of their preteen and teen
Mhm.
years, those things are missing
Right.
for
Just
for
simple
kids
things,
in
the
foster
checkbook
care.
and how to make
Mhm.
a healthy meal.
Yeah,
And yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
So, and again, while the counties are doing their best, they're
Mhm.
trying, it's not enough.
Right.
And so the kids who age out, we are working on additional programming here in this community. Lots of places around the country are working on additional kinds of services for kids that have aged
Mhm.
out
That's
because
great.
people know that these are generations of kids
Mhm.
Absolutely.
that one study I saw said that it costs us about $1 million per kid over the course of their lifetime in additional
Mhm.
support services.
Wow.
Mental health services,
Right.
Mhm.
housing,
Mhm.
all those things.
That's true.
So, I think there were 75 kids that aged out of Lucas County Children's Services last year.
Wow.
That's 75 kids,
Yeah.
young people.
Absolutely. And Kathy's location at Ready for Life in Pinellas County, they opened a second location.
Oh, I didn't know
And
that.
also now they offer our exchange parent aid model as
Good.
well for the same reasons that
Yeah.
you do, just trying to help all of these kids who didn't have that
Right.
skill modeled for them from parents or grandparents.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Well, and I attended a workshop at this year's convention, a conference, or it's not a conference. What's it called? The
Convention and symposium.
symposium.
Yes,
I couldn't
yes.
think of the word
Happens.
symposium.
We just throw around lots
Right,
of words.
yes.
So the symposium that was presented by two women who have a center in Florida
Right.
that are using parent
Mhm.
aid model with adoptive families as well. And as soon as we have some things in line at Adopt America, our intent, I said to them at the time that we really wanted to become collaborators,
Good.
because I think we have some information that would be useful to them, and they certainly have information that we'd like to learn more about from them.
Absolutely. Now, how do you see exchange clubs? Because as you said, the Exchange Club of Toledo is very supportive of you and the other causes that are represented in the club. What could clubs do if they wanted to help with this type of efforts? What could they do in their own community or
Yeah.
where there's a club located?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, learn about the problem.
Yeah, yes, that's a
Yes.
good point. Hmm.
Because so many folks don't even think that there's an issue. They don't
True.
know that there's anything that needs addressing. They think kids are in foster care. Kids are in foster care. Um, for me, it's kind of like if you have a relative that goes to the hospital, it's not like you can just walk away and say, "Oh, they're in good hands now."
Right.
I mean, that they're specialized, they're being cared for there, but that's not everything that person needs. If your mom's there, you need to be there, right? Well, it's the same, kind of thing. These kids need to continue to be wrapped around and supported by more than the county caseworkers. So, community members, caring folks like people who are involved in exchange clubs, if they can learn more and know more about the kids coming out of foster care, if they're going out of foster care into adoptive families, the kinds of supports they need there, if the kids are returning to their families, the kinds of support that are needed by those families to embrace their kids and to support them. So know more is one thing.
Good advice.
Yeah, just know more. And that of course means, I would love to continue to come to symposium and keep talking about this, and that you merge the convention with symposium. So there's some more overlap. I think is a great opportunity for that programming to reach the members, so club members. So that's cool. And we always need more families.
Definitely.
There's a huge need across the country for families to provide foster care, to do respite for other families, to have support opportunities or activities, events in their community that would support the kids and the families, and funding. Everything we do is based on the number of people that I can have working on it.
Yes, true.
We're so fortunate. We've grown dramatically over the last few years to 36 staff members.
Wow, great.
And so we're doing a lot more work than we used to be able to do. But as I said, these models are working, and so if we could be doing more, we would. And that takes dollars to be able to do that. So, I'm eager for other clubs around the country to know about Adopt America and that our work is national alongside the Exchange Club's national presence as well.
Where can our members go if they want to learn more about Adopt America or how to get involved with your families?
Yeah, pretty easy. AdoptAmericaNetwork.org.
Good.
Go to the website. There's lots of info there, ways that you can participate, ways you can learn, read about families. We have a heart gallery of kids that are available for adoption. And so, we try to share some information about those kids so people know and understand the nature of the kids who are in foster care. There aren't a lot of babies in foster care, but there are a lot of teenagers. And so there's a lot of kids and sibling groups of kids, that have 3-4 sibs that, they are what they have. They need to stay together. And so, go to the website, check us out, ask a question. We're happy to be responsive.
Good. Well, thank you for the work you do and for the opportunity to learn more about it today. And thanks for being a great partner of Exchange.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I always love telling this story. If one more person knows about this, it's a good thing.
That's right.
So,
absolutely. Well, you spread the word today. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Wendy.
And to those of you listening, if you'd like to learn more about Adopt America, definitely visit the AdoptAmericaNetwork.org. And to learn more about Exchange, visit nationalexchangeclub.org. And thanks for tuning in to this episode of Talk Exchange.